My name is Kazuhiro Soda. I'm the director of Inland Sea film I shot in Japan, Okayama Prefecture. It's about this town which is full of old people and cats. And young people are leaving this town, and it's getting kind of depopulated. So I shot this town at twilight. Well, first of all, I was interested in I grew interested in this town Ushimado because we often visited there. My wife Kyoko, she's a producer of the film. Her mother is from this town, so we often spend vacation there. And while we were on vacation, we became some friends with local fishermen, and I got interested in the life of fishermen because they were very old, like 80 years old, 70 years old, and they told me that they have no successors, which means that in 10 or 20 years, we may not have any fishermen in this village. And probably if that's happening, if that's what's happening in Ushimado, it's probably happening everywhere in Japan. And so meaning in 10, 20 years, we might not see any fishermen in Japan. That idea was quite frightening, fright, frightening for me, because for me, I thought, Japan was a country of sushi and sashimi. And our society and culture is so related to the sea, and fisherman was as a profession that deal with the sea, and that's disappearing. So I wanted to kind of preserve it, and also I wanted to see what's going on. So that was my initial inspiration. And when I came back with the camera, um, I actually met Wai-chan on the shore by accident, and he had a catch of the day. He had a big fish. He just caught it, and he saw my camera. He wanted me to shoot it, so he was like, shoot this," and I was like, "Oh, do I shoot it?" And I started rolling the camera, and he was charming. So that way, my shooting began. So it was by accident that I met Wai-chan and started making a film about him. If you call the destruction of environment part of the modernization, yes. I mean, everything is, I think, related to modernization. You know, I ended up filming this very primitive economic cycle through following Wai-chan, because when I was following Wai-chan, he was catching fish, and I was wondering where it's going, and I ended up finding out that he was taking it to a local fish market where local fish store owners were bidding, And I followed to the local fish store, and she was selling the fish to the local people, and the leftover was eaten by local cats. So Wai-chan's fish was like going like this circle in this town. And I think this local economy, this economic cycle, is an ancient cycle, because I think it's been going on maybe at least 1,000 years, right? But Wai-chan was telling me this is not sustainable anymore. Fish is getting cheaper, and nets are getting more expensive, so he cannot make ends meet, and that's why so many people are quitting fishermen, and also nobody is succeeding yet. Which means, this ancient system, economic system, is now all of a sudden we see it not functioning. And I think, the only reason I can think of is this modern economy, different economy than the ancient economy. What I try to do with the documentary is it's to share my experience with the audience. When you are going through lives, you meet certain people and you experience a lot of things and you witness things and luckily I'm a filmmaker and I have a camera and oftentimes I can capture that. And the reason why I roll the camera is not to watch it myself. I want to share it with the audience. And because I think we, as a human being, we have this desire and instinct that we are social animals. So when we experience something fascinating or extraordinary, you have a desire, you develop a desire to share it with somebody else. That's why when we travel to somewhere, you come back, you always tell your story to your family or friends. And in my case, that's the filmmaking, And so, yeah, my desire to share my experience with the audience. I try to recreate my personal experience in a cinematic reality so that the audience can feel as if they are experiencing through my eyes. And it's up to them what they feel from the experience. Even if we experience the same thing, depending on the person, they they can feel many different things, and it's up to the audience. And I like that, and I like to leave it open. So that's why I don't really think about changing the society by making films. My film is more ambiguous, and also it's more. It's not to convey messages. I'm not interested in that because messages you can convey by words. I do Twitters, and I express my political opinions all the time, and that's actually easier than making a film. Well, basically, my Ten Commandments is about looking and listening. How do I look and listen carefully and make a film based on my observation? And so I don't do any research. I don't write anything before shooting. I roll the camera, just jump into the situation, roll the camera, and see what happens, and learn from what I saw. And that's the idea. And I also want the audience to observe, look and listen carefully what's going on on the screen. So I don't use any narration, music, or superimposed titles. It's about accepting their reality and my experience. I try not to bend. Well, I try not to. I try to be honest. About my experience, and it feels good. and it is about accepting the way things are, and but by doing that, you notice something, you discover something, and it might affect your point of view and world view. That might change the world actually. Although that's not the primary purpose. So I think, actually in the end, when the audience watches my films, they might, change their worldview, and that might affect the world as well. Although that's not my aim. That's not my purposes. Yeah. And that's wonderful if that happens as a consequence or as a result.